Thanks to TNF Cricket. Welcome to this extraordinary episode of the In the Sheds podcast with a focus on cricket in the USA. So with my colleagues, Michael Sheedy, founder, TNF Cricket, coach, Mount Waverley Cricket Club. Adam Crosthwaite, the king, who's forging new ground with cricket in this, Australian off-season, yet international on-season. And I'm Andrew Walton. But hey, Michael, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew, on a bit of a historic moment for In the Sheds. The first time we've been into the USA, and we're very, very happy to do so. Adam, thanks for joining us all the way from Seattle. Is that right?
It's made Seattle, Washington. Yeah, we get wow. The original gangsters of the In the Sheds back together for. And we bring you to Seattle, Washington. It's not a place that I really thought that I'd come for cricket or play cricket at, but it's amazing where the game can take you.
And what has taken you there, mate? Tell us a little bit about why you're in Seattle.
So I guess this all stems back probably about 10 years ago, actually, when James, my brother, came over, followed a girl got delisted from New South Wales and followed a girl over to the US. And I remember having a chat to him and saying, mate, you should just check out if there's any cricket being played over in the US. And Seattle being the hub for, I guess, Microsoft, and Microsoft being such a huge company, there's a big Indian population in Seattle. And I've actually played a couple of games over here for the Microsoft Cricket Club. Can you believe? So, yeah, the story just gets stranger. But yeah, so we just met some guys here, and we've stayed in contact. And I'm over here coaching the minor league cricket championship, which is at the moment the highest cricket competition in the US. There's 26 teams in 4 divisions. Played all across the country. So it's been a really interesting thing. It's been a melting pot of cultures between, I've got 8 Indians, 2 South Africans, a Sri Lankan, myself, an Aussie, playing. We don't have any West Indians, unfortunately, but a lot of the other teams do. Some Pakistani internationals are in and around the place, and mate, it's been an eye-opening experience for cricket, that's for sure. So we've played 12 games. We've got 2 more games on the weekend, and we're touch and go. If any one of you two can work out net run rate and tell us how we can make up about 0.4% or something, I don't know how it's going to work, but we need to win both games, and we need to pick up some net run rate. So apart from that, it's everything's going really well.
Well, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, originally from Hyderabad, and when Satya took over as a CEO a number of years ago, he did make actually a number of public statements about the importance of sport within the culture of business, and he was drawing upon his own preference for cricket. And this is incredible to see that years later on, Adam, you're actually playing cricket for a corporation, and it is becoming part of what they do and how they are and how they look after their people and keep them as part of the company. But
mate, it's crazy. I'll just jump in there, Waldo, in regards to Satya and Microsoft. And Satya is actually himself one of the biggest investors into what's going to be Major League Cricket and US cricket really going forward. That they've already secured about 150 million US for infrastructure, which is one of the biggest issues that we have here in the US is infrastructure, because a lot of the grounds are diamonds or square grounds, either soccer or American football. So having a circular grounds, a lot of the grounds are played like in parks, and they've just put synthetic or the hybrid wickets that are coming. They're being like Gabba are doing these hybrid wickets that are taking off in the US. I played on my first one over the weekend. It was actually quite a good wicket. And
so just to extend, hybrid means what though, King?
So there's different types of hybrid. So the hybrid that's happening in the US, they're actually laying a concrete base, then they're laying synthetic grass, but they're putting turf onto it. So the synthetic grass is holding the turf together. And that's one type of hybrid wicket. Now, what we've got back in Australia, and I know they're using them in the UK as well, is they're actually on full turf wickets. Instead of seeding grass in, they actually put the synthetic grass to hold it together. So we've got a couple at the Junction Oval in Melbourne. I know that England, the UK do a lot more than what we are, and I think it's like this is the first one I've played on with a concrete base. It played quick, but it was still had that turf style of cricket.
Wow.
When you say played quick, just two things there. So just explain the bounce for us, and also what sort of balls are you using, please?
So they're using SG, Indian SG balls.
So just hold there. So Michael, the Indian SG ball, just describe what that does for our listeners, please.
So that's a ball that's been used in Test cricket throughout India for the last probably 8 to 15 years. With the Indian conditions, slightly narrower seam, similar to a Duke's ball. It's for hard wearing surfaces, I suppose you could probably say, King. It'd probably wear a little bit better. It's not as soft as leather.
No, it's a tough bat, and luckily, Waldo, I'm looked after by the great people at TNF, and I've already broken a couple of bats because these balls are hard, and you're trying to slog them in T20 cricket, and my old trusty faithful TNFs that have lasted for 3 years didn't hang on again. So send me a couple of duties.
And
my Indian friend Muscle would say the balls are durable.
Yes, they're durable, but they are built for durability. And that's probably why it's probably not a bad rock for the American conditions. King.
And then the bounce. Adam?
Tell us
what's that like?
Yeah. So there's a mixture over here of turf wickets. So one of the things they don't have is they don't have a lot of curators across the country like we do. Curating is a skill that's very unique to cricket, and they don't have a lot in the US. But a lot of the wickets that they're trying to do for this minor league, so they're very low and slow type of pitches. But these hybrid wickets that we played on in San Jose over the weekend bounced and came through, and they had a couple of young quicks that got the ball up, and that was almost, it felt fast enough that it was probably a very hard gabba whacker type of quick. Almost felt like you were playing on synthetic, but on concrete, as they call it over here. I call it synthetic cricket. That's what I grew up on, but they call it concrete over here because of the concrete base. So it's a really, really good middle ground. Gets them off concrete. You can lay turf on top of it. It just keeps it all together. You still get some nip and some turn. So I was really impressed, and it was, and there's a lot more of these hybrid wickets being planted into like their second and third grounds at different venues. But the idea is to still have high quality turf wickets for the major league. And for
Adam, on the business side of things, so recently myself in May this year went back to KOC and listened to a lot of Indian people getting heavily involved and taking the USA market very seriously. But from you now being there, just a description, please, on the business side, the teams that are involved and who also as owners and players. Who are some of the things that we're seeing come through, please?
So currently we're in the minor league season, and the plan is to next season move into a major league season. So the Major League Cricket here in the US are the governing body. They're the ones that are running the tournaments, and they have, I think it's a 50-year contract with US Cricket to run their tournaments. So these guys are running it. Major League Cricket hasn't been announced yet for next season with how many teams and what. I'm assuming that in the next couple of weeks, which is the playoffs of the minor league, is when the PR machine will take off. But the idea is to to build. They've already raised money to build stadiums across the country, circular stadiums, and the drawings that I've seen are very much like New Zealand, beautiful, nice, small New Zealand grounds, or like a Junction or a North Sydney type, like not big Coliseum MCGs, but 10,000, 15,000 circular stadiums with change rooms and nets and everything that goes with it, that we take for granted. Now that I've been here, we definitely take for granted how many facilities we have in Australia, that's for sure. So when that gets announced, the minor league right now is 26 teams across 4 divisions. My understanding is that the major league will be 6 teams to start with, and then year on year increasing franchises as they go along. It will all be franchise based and privately owned. There's huge talk around at the moment that the Kolkata Knight Riders, as we've seen in world cricket, what they're doing in the Caribbean and around the world, is picking up teams that Kolkata really want to be involved in LA, and that the Mumbai Indians, who have just got, I guess, MI Cape Town, they're going to have MI New York as well. So Mumbai Indians, New York. So Kolkata move into LA, the Indians move into New York, and then there's going to be 4 other franchises, all privately owned. Whether we see more IPL teams coming on board, which is what I probably think will happen, is going to be interesting to see. But one thing they do have is already a kitty pretty big for money investment. And my understanding is that when the salary cap comes, or some type of salary cap, because the Americans don't like salary caps in their sport, but my understanding is that the money on offer will be more than what the Big Bash is offering across in our 13th season of the Big Bash.
On that business side of things.
Yeah, sorry, go.
No, I was going to say that business side of thing, Michael. So obviously the content plays a massive part here as well. And these games are all being streamed at the moment through the US through various platforms. And Michael, we just seen that the IPL teams have taken a position in all of the South African teams, and they're wanting to expand the IPL further. So it's almost like you could imagine that you would be able to see the Mumbai Indians on screen somehow nearly the whole year round.
Yeah, it seems to be that way, doesn't it? And Adam, I did see the other day a post from you that you saw soil being turned in one of the new facilities. Where was that facility? For those of you us who follow you on Instagram, it looked like a new pavilion was being built. So
that was actually, there's a few new pavilions that are being built at the moment, but one of the recent ones is, obviously in the US you have a lot of minor league baseball stadiums that aren't being used anymore. So they've got facilities, they've got change rooms, and what they've done in Dallas, I think that was in Dallas, that the one you're alluding to, is they're turning an old baseball stadium into a circular cricket ground. So they're knocking down part of the ground, keeping the facilities and the rooms and which is really unique and really cool to be able to have a converted baseball diamond converted into a circular ground that can host cricket. There's talk of the Oakland Athletics, where the Oakland Athletics play baseball, that's one of the only places from a Major League Baseball stadium that could host cricket, with the dimensions being the way they are. So there's talk of potentially putting some games there. But yeah, there's a lot of things happening, and there's the one thing that they're not short of. When you smash American sport into Indian money, there's not a lot that they're not doing at the moment, and it's a nice blend. It's an amazing blend, and if you look at what the IPL are doing around the world, and these franchises and guys like Trent Bolt that have just opted out, Chris Lynn who's going to the UAE, we've heard what Warner's been doing. Like I just can't see this going away, and I think personally, I see that cricket within the next 5 to 10 years will be more around a soccer type setup, where you play for your franchises and then you take off and play internationals when the window is. At the moment, we're putting windows in for domestic games. I'm almost positive that in the future, we're going to have windows for international games. It's going to flip on its head because the money is just too big. And the players, if the players come next year for the major league, they'll probably, like, domestic players will make twice as much as what they are in the Big Bash.
Wow. So just to, so the reason I alluded to the stadium being built was that the owner of the Calcutta Knight Riders, Shah Khan, he is actually already invested into American cricket in Florida. Is that correct?
In LA.
For our viewers, in LA.
In LA,
so,
yep.
And so the Calcutta Knight Riders will own the LA franchise. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they'll own LA, and the Mumbai Indians are going to go into New York, is my understanding.
And then, Andrew, from a streaming rights perspective, you can imagine that the rights that these franchises will then be negotiating will be global rights as opposed to individual league rights potentially going forward. Would that be a fair statement?
Totally. And if you break it down by the sport of cricket, the third biggest market for subscription, as in pay TV, is the USA. It's the third biggest market in the world for revenue for subscription. And that's based on generally people in the US watching cricket outside of the US getting access to it. This will take it to a new level. Adam, the players that you're seeing over there, I mean, Liam Plunkett, high profile UK player, any other Australian players? Because when the lists were coming together, not with the Seattle, but other teams, I heard of a lot of under 23 players from Australia being approached from New South Wales and South Australia, guys who are like fringe on the list and not really, maybe had a dabble at Big Bash because there was a spot there. But who are you seeing come through there, please? So,
mate, this is what's really interesting when we come back to Australia is we don't have any representation apart from myself, Bert Cockley, who used to play for New South Wales.
Yep.
So Bert Cockley's based out of Dallas now as well. And then Justin Gill, who spent some time at the BCCI and running the IPL, he's now heading up Major League Cricket. And Josh Dascombe, who's as an Australian as well. So Josh is involved with Major League Cricket. Apart from that, players, we don't have any. There's a couple of young New Zealand kids that are running around, but we've had no Aussie young Aussies come in. There's been guys that have been approached, but no one's come over. Whereas it was really interesting because the South Africans, there's a big influx of South Africans over here. There's a big influx of West Indies, in a lot of Indian
Sri Lankans, LB.
Sri Lankans. Jayasuriya, there's a kid, Jayasuriya. He is one of the best bats I've seen in a long time.
Interesting there. So Michael, one of the blockers on that part here for Australia was that the timing of the season that Adam's going through. A number of the states would throw at the players, you need to be here for pre-season, you need to be here for our camp. And after they turn July 1, that lure is still a bit too strong in Australia. However, I can start to see it fragment though.
Also, I mean, I think the top end series, Andrew, has definitely gone up in leaps and bounds in regards to the development of these players, not just doing arduous pre-seasons down here in Melbourne in maybe, the middle of winter. So, and Adam will attest to this, that, you have guys in those programs at St Kilda that have gone up north and playing in Darwin, and Darwin have put so much infrastructure into that top end, segment, I suppose, of our season, and kudos to them. The lure, Adam, it's been amazing the amount of messages I personally, which is probably a little bit rare, but probably just from knowing you, how is the Crossy getting into this American league? And I've been getting it from England, Sri Lanka, as well as India, of course, but also a couple of young Aussies. How accessible do you think it's going to be, Crossy, in regards to, so just explain, you mentioned before about the ownership and the businesses owning it. Are they employees of those companies and then with a couple of pros, or is it going to be in the minor leagues like what you're playing, just purely employees, or is it going to be purely, a draft pool of players from all over the world?
So from a minor league will continue as is, which is 26 teams, and there is payment. So these guys are professional players. So there is payment in there. The major league is going to be on a different level. The major league wants to not take on the Big Bash, but wants to be at that Big Bash style, wants to be fully professional. Right. So the idea, I think, is going to be 4 to 5. So they'll probably contract 6 overseas internationals with 4 that can play. The rest of the rest of those teams will be made up of locals, but the locals aren't American locals, or they are, but they're major league cricketers. And these major league cricketers are coming from South Africa, India, West Indies. There's a heap of Caribbean Premier League players over here this year playing in the minor league team. So it's and the Aussies are the only ones that haven't come. The English aren't here because they're in their season. But the Aussies are the only ones that potentially could come. And this is where I think that some of these players that are on the fringe, this is a genuine career opportunity or a genuine place to play cricket moving forward. The minor league cricket is a 2 or 3 month, 2-3 month type of tournament, but the major league cricket, which will be that they'll be targeting high profile international signings, and the money is not going to be short. So the money is going to be big for those international guys. So watch the space when the draft comes, which is in about February, March next year, with the tournament being post IPL window. There'll be big international signings, and even local, like first class Australian players, I think will be those sort of middle ranked international signings. It would surprise me if there's not some serious Australian cricketers playing over here in the major league next year on what will be very good money.
So how can we watch the games, Adam? How are they being broadcast, please?
So at the moment, they're being streamed. They're being streamed onto YouTube. I believe they're streamed onto Willow TV, which is a cricket company a subscription model, as you said. So the coverage has been really good. The cameras, the premium games that they're covering sort of studio style with a truck and like 8 cameras, and it's blown me away, to be honest, the coverage and the way that the professionalism that they've gone about it. I didn't think it would have been as good as it is, and to be honest, the cricket is really good cricket, tough cricket. They probably lack the pace. There's no real out and out quicks here at the moment. There's a couple of West Indian guys who are reasonable, but they just lack that pace. Some of the batting is pretty good, and it's interesting. So because the competition is across the country on a wet day, so instead of no result wet day, they'll take the game off turf and they'll put it onto concrete, and then they play on synthetic. So we've played in 2 games. Only 2 of our 12 have been on these concrete wickets, but it was one of the most crazy things. Like, so you play, I think in that game we had 11 first class cricketers, and 4 of them were Caribbean Premier League players playing on concrete, and some of the biggest sixes you've ever seen in your life. These West Indian, like Mark Dale, his name is, he plays in the Caribbean, and he hit some of the biggest sixes I've ever seen, because it was decent bowling against decent batting on a reasonably small ground, and with a hard cricket ball. That these balls it was impossible to bowl. The batting.
So he's going about 80 metres, King, hitting?
Oh, mate, these on 80 metres over the boundary.
So, are there many lost balls?
There was a couple. I actually hit one. One of the poor spinners.
Here we go. I was about to get to this. So you're getting any runs?
One of the poor spinners dragged down, and I hit him up, and it. But you don't, like in Australia, you don't go into the bushes. One of the grounds that we play on in Seattle is in the middle of a beautiful national park, and you hit it to the short boundary, the ball goes in there. In Australia, we don't go in there because of snakes. In Seattle, you don't go there because the bears are there. There's literally bears. It's crazy. So it's some of the most pristine, amazing. Yeah, you just don't want to go in there because the bears are in there. But some of the photos that I've got from being here and some of the places we played cricket in California, in the rolling hills of California, in Seattle, in the middle of the mountain ranges, in San Jose, right next to the beach. Yeah, it's been better than what I expected. I was excited for it, but it's been better than what I expected.
We have been showing a number of photos that you've kindly passed on to us, Adam, throughout the segment of In the Sheds, and there is some serious views there, mate. And we'll actually share the links at the end of this pod in order for people to follow you and also the Seattle Thunderbolts, so that people can tune in to hopefully some more cricket over there and start to take a greater interest into it. As we wrap up, Adam, what's been the biggest highlight, I suppose, from your perspective? You've got the family there, little Noah, you've got Flip, you've obviously moved the business, you've been able to work, remotely with the brand bar. But what's been the biggest highlight that you've had so far over the last couple of months?
I generally think just getting to know US cricket and getting to know what everything's about over here. It's from a cricket perspective. Waldo and I had a conversation the other day. From a cricket perspective, the mashup of culture, playing with the Indian cultural cricket that doesn't match up to the South African way, which doesn't match up to the Australian way, and then with the Sri Lankan little sprinkle of the Sri Lankans in there as well. It's a very interesting dynamic, and it's been one of the toughest, but probably one of the coolest experiences in regards to cricket culture that I've ever had. Wow. The Indians don't love to start on time, and in Australia, and if anybody knows me, I am anxious about getting out on the ground at a certain time. That's been very interesting. When they break, I speak more Hindi now than I ever have. The boys break into Hindi, and then the South Africans break into Afrikaans, and I'm standing there. I don't understand what anyone's saying. So it's been a lot of fun. But I think minor league cricket and major league cricket, and US cricket in general, they're working really hard, and it's really cool to see. I honestly think so. The US national team has automatic World Cup qualification in 24. By that stage, the cricketers that I'm seeing running around that are here to qualify for that tournament and to qualify for the US, by the time they get their green cards and they're American citizens, they're going to have a serious cricket team.
Wow.
So just on that for our fans back home, last night the USA beat the UAE in Scotland, Aberdeen, and in the USA team was Ian Holland from Ringwood in Melbourne. And did you play with Cam Stevenson, Michael, or did you would have played against him?
No, he was after me at Carlton. No, and he was after my time at Premier Cricket, right. But definitely King would have played a lot against Steve-O. But
Steve-O amazing. Hit my head off in the semi-final this year. He's still got some pace, and he's doing really well. The boys are, there's definitely an Aussie flavour in that US team at the moment.
Yeah, and kudos to Liam Plunkett for being the renegade, I suppose, and taking the plunge into a market that he obviously had a lot of confidence in, and and kudos to you now, Adam, for taking the plunge from the next level down and doing it all for us back home in order to, I suppose, give us a little bit of insight into what is ahead, which is super exciting. From In the Sheds, Andrew, it's for our first time into the US. We could keep going on, but we will pull it up. We will pull up stumps at the end of this session. But just wanted to thank Adam and Flip and Noah for sharing those photos with us, and Zach for putting it all together on the In the Sheds podcast. It's great to see a flavour of American cricket and American just different parts, mate. Like, it's just been extraordinary to watch your journey over the last couple of months.
Mate, it's been bizarre to live it, to be honest. When you talk of cricket, you don't often think that one weekend you're going to be playing against Hollywood on the Saturday and
crazy,
and Silicon Valley on the Sunday. Like,
unbelievable.
I'm more used to playing against North Melbourne and
Ringwood.
And great to see, Adam, that you're doing the right thing by all those opposition fans that you have in the Melbourne scene. You're growing your spikes back again to give them something extra to tap into when you pick up the cudgels of a season looming, Michael. And TNF Cricket, thanks for bringing In the Sheds together. So